Hello, my name is Randy Reed. I'm the editor and publisher of the Edison Report, which is delighted to co-sponsor the National Lighting Bureau's annual Lighting Forum. We're here at the studios of the forum's other co-sponsor, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, where I am moderating 6 panel discussions. This panel is titled Workforce Development. Our panelists are Terry Coleman with the Electrical Training Alliance, Madeleine Bugel of the National Electrical Manufacturers Association, and Sara Yerkes, Senior Vice President of the International Code Council. Welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Madeleine, the first question goes to you. With the lack of skilled workers in the electrical trades, what is NEMA doing to help with that issue?
So as the trade association for electrical manufacturers, NEMA has started a strategic initiative for workforce development to help our members. What we are finding is that a lot of institutional knowledge in the electro industry is retiring, and there's just not enough new applicants to fill out their spots. So what we would like to see from the industry is a rebranding of electro manufacturing jobs. We find that high school students today are completely unaware of jobs in the electro industry, or if they are aware of jobs, they have the misconception that they're dirty, mindless, or boring. None of those words correctly describe most of the jobs in the electro industry today. They're dynamic, they're clean. We retained a curriculum development company to help our members develop apprenticeship programs with high school students so that they can make the connections in local communities and expose these students to all of the great opportunities in the electro industry.
Terry?
Yeah, we're doing something similar because we have the same problem. We represent both workers in the manufacturing sector and in the construction sector. So we see the same issue with recruitment. We see the same issues with the aging, graying population. I think the average age is in the late 40s to early 50s of a traditional electrical worker, coming up on retirement age and leaving the industry. And so we are working on similar initiatives to sort of rebrand. We have that can always be a difficult thing to do, but we're looking at ways to rebrand and to recruit and excite younger people about getting into the trades. And so far, you know, we have a mixed bag of success.
Sara, did you want to comment?
Yes, I'd like to comment as well. ICC is also experiencing a similar situation. In a study done in 2014 by the National Institute of Building Sciences, we found that the average age of our members is between 55 and 64, and 31% will be retiring in the next 5 years, 51% in the next 5 to 15 years. So we are very committed to initiate different activities and projects to lure new people into both the code administration profession as well as into the building trades. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, we lost approximately 2.3 million workers between 2006 and 2011. And that's going to be a challenge for the home building industry to find qualified, skilled workers to rebuild, for example, in Florida after Irma and in Texas after Harvey devastated so many areas of those states. So at ICC, we created a high school program as well. We're introducing the building codes to high school students in technical schools to teach the kids how to navigate the building code. This is, we hope, going to open certain doors to young people who may not be considering professions in code administration, field inspection, or in the building trades. So we have the high school program. We also started a new membership council, the Emerging Leaders Council, to attract new young professionals into the code hearings. As Madeleine said, we're experiencing a tremendous loss of institutional history and expertise with members retiring, and we depend on these members to write the codes and the standards. It's not the ICC staff that writes the codes and standards, it's our volunteers.
Terry, what are some issues that employers will face when they're recruiting people for the skilled trades?
I think the biggest thing is trying to make it attractive to a younger person. When people look at the skilled trades, there's the dirty aspects. You know, there's times when you're going to have to be in a ditch and you're going to be outside in the rain and in the cold. If you're a line worker, well, guess what? You're down there during the hurricanes and all that sort of thing. So there's a lot of negative side. There's a lot of upside. You know, younger workers are more savvy in technology, so for them it makes sense to come on board, you know, and use their expertise. Where a lot of the older established workers are not as tech savvy, not that they can't be retrained, and not that there are several that are interested in doing that work. It's just more natural, I think, to younger workers. The problem is, you still got to get through the dirty parts to get to the clean parts.
Right. Please, Sara.
I would like to add to what Terry said. I think there's also an issue with the definition of success. Here in the United States, we consider a successful career if you're going into a college, university,
Yes.
and you come out with a degree. But the reality is that young people can get trained, certified, go into the building trades, whether it's electrical, plumbing, or code administration, make an excellent living, making a good salary, and not have any college debt.
Right.
So,
Absolutely. If I may, that's one of the things that we try to promote, of course, is that you know, you get paid. You earn while you learn.
exactly.
Those advantages. But the other thing is that we want to promote it's lifelong learning. We don't just because somebody finishes an apprenticeship program or 2 years of community college and then gets into the trades, decides that's the end of their educational abilities. Technology changes constantly, and we need continuing education. So we like to promote lifelong learning. And try to instill that very early in the process. So when we have an apprentice, we let them know that just because you finish a 5-year apprenticeship program doesn't mean that's the end of your learning experience.
And we're finding in manufacturing jobs, the manufacturers are constantly improving on their processes, constantly innovating. So if you have a job in a manufacturing plant, it's probably going to change. It's going to be dynamic. You're going to
Right.
do more learning throughout the process.
Sara, give our audience a brief introduction to the International Code Council.
The International Code Council is a U.S.-based association. We're not-for-profit. We have 64,000 members, and we are the predominant model code developer in the United States for construction codes, safety codes and standards.
Residential, commercial, industrial, everything.
Everything, all disciplines in construction, so commercial, residential, plumbing, mechanical, energy conservation, green building, fire safety. And then, of course, we reference the National Electrical Code, which is published and developed by the National Fire Protection Association, which completes the package of model codes that are used throughout the United States.
And how are these codes and standards enforced in the U.S.?
So the codes become law when they are adopted by a state or a jurisdiction. And in the United States, we have statewide adoptions and we have home rule states. Texas is a home rule state. California is a statewide state. But there are exceptions to every rule. So in some states, the codes may be adopted for only state leased and owned buildings. Other states, it may be a statewide adoption, but with a local option to enforce. But very critical to the success of our building system in the United States is the enforcement of the codes, the proper administration of the codes, which falls on the regulators, the building officials, building inspectors, plumbing inspectors, and so on throughout the country that enforce our codes.
So Terry, it's not all doom and gloom. If you are successful in getting these younger workers to the electrical trade, what might be the upside?
Well, I think we alluded to it a little bit before, is that they bring with them technical skills and savvy that will be needed in the future. If you're looking out ahead and in things like smart cities and the Internet of Things and that sort of stuff, it makes a lot of sense that the millennials and the current generation will, you know, they're already into that. You know, they get it. They can move forward in that. The industry is kind of moving that way. So, you know, I think we just need the right advertisement, the right pitch. You know, that not everybody needs to go to college. That the college is not necessarily take you to the job that you thought you were going to get. So that's a tough hill to climb. I think that's our toughest hill right now. You know, most parents are saying, "Not my kids; they're going to college."
Right.
May I add
Please,
something?
Sara.
I think we've seen some support come out of this administration as well. There have been some announcements about technical training, vocational training. So you said earlier the importance of continuing education. It's not just coming out of the building trades and you're done. You continue to get certified and you continue to learn. I think that's important, the recognition for certification programs as part of a good education for building trades and non-college university, as we traditionally think of a formal education, but equally good.
But Sara, you mentioned the administration, and the administration is also talking about fewer regulations. And how does that kind of affect the way you guys do business?
Well, we have seen an anti-regulatory environment in the last few years, but I think in this situation with vocational and technical training, it's a need that we're seeing across the United States. There is a serious shortage of skilled workers, and I think the administration recognizes that, and I believe several of the unions, the Labor's International and other unions, have met with the president and talked about the need for support for apprenticeship programs and so on. So I think for us in the private sector as an association, we're doing everything we can to support this type of training so we can have a well-skilled workforce.
I believe that Betsy DeVos, the Secretary of Education, also supports that platform.
Yes.
Now, Madeleine, you mentioned two very exciting initiatives that NEMA has to help with this issue. Have they implemented those, and are there any results yet, or are they just starting out?
We're really just starting out in this initiative. We want to provide all of the materials and research to our members that we can. So we are currently getting all the information that we could from our members about the electric industry, the challenges that they're facing with workforce development at the moment. And then we have developed the digital media for them to rebrand the electric industry and the manufacturing jobs in it. And then the curriculum that we are developing will be a more ongoing process because the manufacturers will need to develop those relationships with local communities and continue to enroll high school students in these apprenticeship programs. Yes.
Please.
If I may add, one other thing that ICC is doing, I know many other organizations are also doing, is reaching out to the veterans. And we're starting a military families program to encourage the veterans to consider a next career in the building trades or in code administration. And the other sector that I think we need to reach out to are women. Women comprise 50% of the workforce, but only about 2.6% are in construction jobs. So I think there are audiences that we're not really reaching out to that we need to.
And one of the things, if I may, that we're trying to reach into those audiences you just mentioned is development of pre-apprenticeship programs. The Electrical Training Alliance just last year received a Department of Labor grant to develop pre-apprenticeship programs to bring in non-traditional as well as military. And we have a couple of military options that we work with, helmets to hard hats. We've created our own veterans.
Helmets to hard hats. I love
Isn't
that.
that good?
Helmets to hard
Yeah.
hats. and our own Veterans Entry Program. The Veterans Entry Program would allow on-base training and then direct entry into apprenticeship. One of the issues that we have to get into apprenticeship is, having the jobs, but then you have to, apply, and you have to take a test, and then go through an interview. And so the selection process is regulated. And so if we can bring people by direct entry that have the knowledge and skills that we need, well, then it makes sense to go ahead and bring those people in directly. And that military option gives us that. The pre-apprenticeship programs gives us that option also. If non-traditional people go through those programs, they can afford direct entry into apprenticeship. Because we have a really tough time recruiting women into the trades. We find women that are successful in the trades had some frame of reference. They had a father, brother, mother, somebody else that was in the trades, and they get in and they become very successful. But just off the street, it can be blindsided to, the construction industry can be pretty tough. And so if you have no frame of reference, it can be real tough on somebody just trying to come in first time.
Well, as a retired lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve, thank you both for what your groups are doing for the veterans.
Absolutely.
Sarah, any closing comments?
Yes, I think there's still more work to be done, but I think working together, the different organizations, we can be successful. I believe we need to reach out to young people in technical schools. I'll give you a very quick example. I visited Dunbar High School in Washington, D.C. The DCRA hired one of their young people to intern at the buildings department, which I thought was a great thing to do. But what I found was many of those young people don't realize that there are career opportunities outside the fast food service. If they cannot afford to go to a college, they believe their next opportunity is to go work for a fast food restaurant. So we need to introduce these opportunities in the building trades, in our fields, in code administration, field inspection, electrical workers, plumbers. These are great careers, and so there's a lot more we can do. I am personally very happy and pleased and honored to be working on behalf of ICC with our members to encourage the technical school programs, also mentoring. Our board of directors, the past couple conferences have taken shadows. They bring young professionals from different building departments that shadow our board of directors, sort of an introduction to them on what the future can hold. And we need to do a lot of thinking about where we're going to get our subject matter experts so that we can continue having the best model building and safety codes and standards in the world.
Good. Terry?
I think, we touched on regulation, for example, federal government, perhaps what state government can do and that sort of thing. I think for us, we look at it from the contractor IBW perspective. The boots on the ground are going to be the ones who really make the difference, who go out into the communities and say, look, here's the job opportunities. If we can get the contractors to show, what's the great side, what's the upside, what are the benefits, and we get the IBW members doing the same thing, I think we can do a better job than a lot of regulation. We need help. We need some benefits that can be afforded, but if we don't participate ourselves, if we don't get out and try to make the effort to recruit young people, then it's not coming our way.
Madeleine?
So Sara mentioned earlier what the federal government could do for this workforce issue going on. And we believe that the federal government could absolutely help, but that the state governments really need to take initiative as well. In Utah, there's a program called the Talent Ready Utah program, and it was facilitated by the Governor's Office of Economic Development, and they facilitated strategic partnerships between industry and education. And what these partnerships are doing is the educators are creating curriculum to go along with the jobs needed in these sectors, and industry is offering on-the-job training and apprenticeship programs and an agreement to hire X number of workers when they are out of school. Utah isn't the only example that has a program like this, but ideally we would see programs like this in all 50 states. to help counteract the workforce issue.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And thank all three of you for what your organizations are doing. You're really doing some meaningful work, and I think it's appreciated, and I think it will be impactful. So thank you.
Thank you very much.